So I have been a Unitarian Universalist for over 35 years. My experiences in this religion led me on a journey from being an accountant towards becoming a parish minister in the Unitarian Universalist Association. I've been serving a congregation in Davenport for the last 11 years. And through my years of service, I have found a well of resiliency that has led me to this place in time. And resiliency is something we need to develop in our lives. Between ongoing conflicts overseas, ongoing economic and racial injustice, attacks on LGBTQIA rights, and climate change, among other issues, it is easy to become pessimistic about the future. So where do Unitarian Universalists find hope for the future? And is having hope even a helpful concept? You know, Vietnamese Buddhist monk Thich Nhat Hanh says, and I quote, "Western civilization places so much emphasis on the idea of hope that we sacrifice the present moment. I do not mean that you should not have hope, but that hope is not enough." End quote. Now, the journey of life is a string of events, a string of moments joined together, and we should be aware and be present in each and every one of those moments, so that we can create a life and a world that we dream about. Similar theme is spoken of by the Taoist philosopher Lao Tzu, when he wrote, "A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step," end quote. Each one of our steps makes up the journey, and it is never too late to start on a new path. I think about my journey to ministry. You know, when I started my path to ministry, I did not know where it was heading. And in truth, some days I still don't. And we never really know, right, where our journey will lead us. But my journey, like every other journey, started long before my first step. Stephen Batchelor, in his book Buddhism Without Belief, states, and I quote, "We are who we are because of the unprecedented and unrepeatable matrix of conditions that have formed us," end quote. And certainly part of the matrix of conditions was my family's journey to come to this country. When I was a little boy, every Sunday morning our family would gather and eat breakfast at my grandparents' apartment in the Bronx. And every week we would have a breakfast of bagels, lox, cream cheese, whitefish, and pickled herring. Oh, I still love pickled herring. And I wonder why I have high cholesterol, right? So each week my grandfather would tell us stories about the old country and their journey of moving from Lithuania to America. And the story starts this way. My great-grandfather Jacob, for whom I am named, made the decision to move the family to the United States after one more unprecedented and unprovoked attack by authorities due to my family's Jewish religion. They had enough money for one ticket on a boat from Germany, and the plan was for my great-grandfather to come to America, earn enough money to bring back, to bring over more of the family. A fairly typical Eastern European immigrant story in the early 1900s. So my great-grandfather traveled from Lithuania to Germany, and somewhere along the way he got lost. Yeah, there are of course many jokes about him not asking for directions, but I won't go there. And when he finally arrives in Germany, he has missed the boat to America. But undeterred, and this part of the story gets hazy as there are a few versions of what happens next. This is what happens with oral storytelling. But he eventually ends up on another boat to America. But as it turns out, the boat that he missed sank at sea, and there were no survivors. Right. Just like that, the history of my family was changed. In those days, you know, there were no, obviously, cell phones or telephones, and mail was very slow to get back to Eastern Europe. So for 2 months, of course, the ship sinking made big headlines, and so for 2 months, the family thought he was dead. And when he finally got to America and finally was able to contact the family, they thought he had literally risen from the dead. I will not get into the theological questions about a Jewish man rising from the dead, but there were many. My grandfather used to tell me this story over and over and over again at our Sunday breakfast, and his message to me at the end was always a hopeful message. Jay, he would say, even if you are lost, even if you are so lost that you totally missed the boat, things can still turn out okay for you, and sometimes even better than if you found your way immediately. And then he would end the story with, just don't give up. Now, many Unitarian Universalists have journeyed far to get here today. We've journeyed from other locations, many of us from other states. We've journeyed from other religions, or sometimes from no religion. We've even born Unitarian Universalists, which I know we have a number here who were raised in the religion, have journeyed on the path of religious and spiritual growth, which speaks to our third principle, which includes the encouragement of spiritual growth in our congregations. But like any journey, right, we really don't know where it is going to lead us. So much depends on the questions and the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves, the attitude that we have, and the choices that we make. And we can ask, like for an example, which clearly my great-grandfather didn't ask, will we miss the boat? Will the boat sink? What will I hope for come to pass, right? Thinking ahead, but always thinking of the negative, right? It's the ambiguity, right, that sometimes causes us to lose hope. But, you know, we can also ask different questions. What opportunities are there when I reach my destination? What do I need to do now to give me the best opportunity, to the best chance to make that possibility real? And how can I fully appreciate and find joy in every step of the journey? The key to moving forward is to not let the ambiguity of the outcome paralyze us from doing anything. The choices we make in life do make a difference. We can choose to take a chance on the unknown. As well, also, not making a choice is still making a choice. And as we reflect on our lives, we can see how some specific choices we have made, or non-choices we have not made, have led us to where and to who we are today. And we can use those reflections to help us make better choices going forward, to lead us to where and who we want to be. And this knowledge, just this knowledge that we are capable of learning and growing and adapting, that can help create hope. And approximately 20 years ago, as I was reflecting back on my life, thinking about these things, I realized I wanted to live my life more fully. I knew that somehow I had to transcend the context of my life as I was currently living it. Now, I don't think I thought about that idea in those words at that time. This is sort of looking back on it. But it was, at that time, it was just a feeling, a knot in my stomach, right? An uneasiness about the path that I had chosen for my vocation on the journey at that time. And then one day I was at lunch with a really good friend who I had met in small group ministry. And he just got tired of me complaining about my job, and he asked me a critical question. Again, it's all about the questions. He asked me a critical question that ended up defining my future. He asked, if money wasn't an issue, what would you do for a living? And I just automatically blurted out, I would be a minister. Oh my God, did I say that out loud? And once I said it out loud, though, something changed inside of me. That inner voice said to me, there is more to this life than you have experienced. There are other paths that you can take. That choice in that moment, that was the first time that choice in that moment became a real possibility for me. And I did have a choice. We always have a choice, right? I could have played out the rest of my life hiding in the shadows quietly, wondering what would have been, or I could engage life with hope and wonder and see where it would lead me. In our lives, these divergent paths come upon us all the time. They are always there. No matter how old we are, they are always there. We just have to be aware of them. I liken this to Henry David Thoreau's Walden, where he writes, if a person does not keep pace with their companions, sorry about that, he wrote it, but I tried to make these gender neutral. Perhaps it is because they hear a different drummer. Let them step to the music which they hear, however measured or far away, end quote. But hearing music and stepping to music are two different things, right? Both require intention, and listening in and of itself, right, is a good thing and speaks to taking time to discern one's path. And it is also important to realize that although many of us are on the same path, we may, heading in the same direction, we may be on different parts of that path. Some may be farther along, or some may be on an adjacent path, right? So we're not all at the same place at the same time, and we need to respect that. But Thoreau specifically points out that to listen to one's own music, to listen to the call from the universe, to realize your heart's desire requires action. Requires actually taking the steps to make it a reality. And often requires us to break the status quo, or to break with expectations, either our own or others. Right? But just because a path is uncertain, right? Because embracing change can be a very scary thing because the future is uncertain. But the important part is here, you do not have to walk that path alone. You come together here as a religious community to walk that path together, to share together, to learn together, to comfort each other and guide each other, and to inspire each other, and to just be with each other on your religious and life's journey. So I would like to offer for your consideration some ideas that I have found to be helpful to engage along the path of life's journey. that have created hope for me on a day-to-day basis. Push yourself to be intentional about going deep. Many of us lead busy lives, or we just get into our daily routines, and instead I encourage you to be intentional about taking up a spiritual practice. And I want you to think of the word spiritual practice in a very broad way. Like I would say the people who I see working in the garden almost every day, that is a spiritual practice for them, right? And so, and this church has many, many opportunities to share and or create spiritual practices, and I encourage you to try one. Next, continue to educate yourself and be open to new and different ways of being and thinking. Our Unitarian Universalist identity is shaped by our willingness to be open to and be challenged by new ideas and new teachings. And then we need to be self-reflective and, when necessary, self-corrective. Keep that educational vision in front of you at all times. Because remember, life is an adventure. Don't be afraid to try something new, to take a chance, like the book said. Volunteer maybe to do something different than you do all the time. It'll lead you to different experiences, and those different experiences will lead you to meet different people, and those different people will lead you to different perspectives, and that will lead you to different conclusions about life and the world. You know, when I was mired in traffic, especially when driving I-4 between Orlando and Tampa, I'm sure you've all experienced that, my children would dread the next 5 words that are going to come out of my mouth. Let's go on an adventure. And we would go off the highway and try to find some other way to find our way home, because I just did not want to sit in traffic. And I kind of like that as a metaphor for life as well, right? You know, don't get stuck in traffic just following the path that was laid out in front of you. See if there are other ways to go on with your journey to reach your destination. On this Unitarian Universalist path, you will have good companions for the journey. Lastly, be intentional about being a welcoming community. Our message is a message of transformation and hope, right? It's a message our world desperately needs. It's a message that guests, whether tuned in online or in person, are looking for. Transformation and change is possible. I mean, my goodness, if a mild-mannered accountant like myself can become a prophetic preaching minister, I would say anything is possible in this religion. But the first thing, I have to say, the first thing that attracted me to a Unitarian Universalist congregation was just the overall friendliness of the first group of members when I walked in the door for the first time. So I would call that a theology of friendliness. What I also remember, and this was really important to me personally, when my son, who grew up in the Unitarian Universalist congregation in Orlando, he came back once as an older teenager, and he had blue spiked hair, you know, with the shaved sides. That was a thing for a while. And an older member of my home congregation walked up to him and gave him a hug and said, oh, how much they missed seeing him. And, you know, the spiked hair thing didn't seem to bother her. And my son noticed that as well. So I think it kind of defeated his purpose, but he noticed, right? He was accepted. It didn't matter. And on this Unitarian Universalist path, all are welcome. Spiked hair, straight hair, curly hair, no hair, all are welcome here. And so I invite us to live out our Unitarian Universalist principles. These are not creeds. but they are covenants we have made about how we agree amongst ourselves to act together. Think deeply about what ways that you do and do not live out those principles and why. Try to make them congruent with your actions and keep working at it. Even when the path forward is not clear, despite the ambiguities in life, maintain hope for a better future, for yourself, for the world of today, and for the world of our descendants. Maintain hope and find meaning in each and every day, and in each and every action that you take. And when things get hard, and they will, as they inevitably do, when it may seem the path you have chosen is not working out as planned, I want you to remember the words of my grandfather. Even if you are lost, even if you are so lost that you've totally missed the boat, things can still turn out okay. Even better than if you found your way immediately. Just don't give up. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to learn. It is never too late to grow. So act consciously, and by doing so, you may just live into your hope. May it be so. I now invite you to rise in body and or spirit for our closing hymn, 1020, Wo-Ya-Ya.
We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we will get there, heaven knows where we will get there, we know within. It will be hard, we know, on the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows that we will get there. We know we will. Wo-ya-ya, wo-ya-ya, wo-ya-ya. We will going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know within. And we will get there. Heaven knows that we will get there, but we know we will. Wo-ya-ya, 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 wo-ya-ya-ya, 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 wo-ya-ya-ya.
Our closing words are from the Reverend Wayne Arneson. Take courage, my friends. The way is often hard and the path is never clear, and the stakes are very, very high. But take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Please join me now as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for your presence here today. Thank you.
Good morning. Let us call this session to order. And I ask Madam Secretary if we have a quorum. Madam Secretary gave me a thumbs up, so. I would like to call on Chair of the Search Committee, Rick Sanders.
Thank you. Thank you, Bill. It is my great honor and privilege to be able to nominate the Reverend J. Wolin to be the settled minister of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Sarasota and Lakewood Ranch.
Thank you, Rick. And who would have the honor of seconding that motion? Marie. Thank you very much, Marie Keeney. It is now time to vote. Simply mark your ballots yes, no, or abstain, and we will ask the ushers to collect.
You got yours?
Yes. Please stay seated until the ushers have collected all the ballots. Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to journey into the courtyard. We will convene again in a few minutes. Thank you.